Welcome to summer, nature's most indulgent time, rain coming down from the sky, a true British summer. Come on, come on, come on. Dinner time. Come on. Here. These are young mallard. Can you imagine having 13 children with mum at the back, always on guard? And these are her offspring from one brood, one sitting, one clutch of eggs. And they're incredible young birds. They'll be flying in about a week's time, taking their first flight. And if you take a close look at them, the plumage is incredible. They just look an even dull brown to start with. You can tell the boys, they're beginning to get the blue feathers on the wings. They're camouflaged because predators can easily take them and feed them, take them off the water, take them when they're asleep with their mum. She's always on guard, so she lets them feed first. She's also camouflaged beautifully. And when you take that second look, just underneath them, they're camouflaged from underneath as well, because they spend a lot of their time on water. They go onto our river systems, onto the Broads, and of course they're pike under the water, they're resident mink. Some other species of fish like perch will also take them when they're a few days old. So they're always vulnerable. So camouflage is one of the keys to survival. And having a good mother like that, mum and 13 young. It's early June. Just 3 short weeks ago, this area of woodland was a carpet of bluebells. The tree canopy has come into leaf above our heads. Most of the woodland floors plunged into darkness, and this is a special time of year for some of our most spectacular wildflowers. These are foxgloves, Digitalis purpurea. The Latin for Digitalis is thimble, and the flowers are thimble-like. You can actually put your finger in them, and they're stunningly, stunningly beautiful. Little purple blotches inside to attract bees. Bees can see the colour purple really well. Ultraviolet light attracts them, and foxgloves have the secret of attracting bees. There's lots here today, and they go in here, and the pollen is held at the top of the bell shape in there, and the pollen brushes on their back and they fertilised. Strangely, all parts of this plant are poisonous. They produce lots of seed, but they've given us one of our most important drugs, Digitalis, which is still used today for heart conditions. They just love the shade, and usually they grow about 1 metre high. This year, perfect conditions, 2 metres high, 6 or 7 feet before they finish flowering. Lovely, beautiful flowers, often just walk past without taking that second look. Do enjoy foxgloves. This is one of the highest spots of High Ash Farm. Just look at this glorious sight, a field of poppies. You know it's summer when poppies are in flower. One of our most beautiful wildflowers, full of colour and full of mystery too. Nobody knows how poppies grew before their association with man, because they only grow on disturbed soil. Hence 100 years ago, when all the bombs landed in Flanders and the trenches were dug, all the soil was dug out, the seed was buried in the soil, and it can survive for hundreds of years, and all the trenches were covered in poppies, hence the symbol of the poppy and the First World War. They're fantastic flowers, grow on all sorts of soil types, a real problem for farmers until herbicides were invented to control them. But poppies are staging a comeback. Motorway embankments, any moved soil, any fields that don't get sprayed or you forget to spray, and they'll quickly come back. Each poppy can produce over 400 flowers on a single plant, and each seed pod can have 20 or 30 seeds in it. When they ripen, it's like a little pepper pot with tiny holes at the top. Once they ripen, the wind blows and shakes the seeds out onto the ground, and they can survive in the soil for hundreds of years. One of our summer's most beautiful flowers, the poppy. We all love butterflies in our garden. Two of my favourite species are the peacock and the small tortoiseshell. But to have them in your garden, you need a nettle patch like this. Young nettles in summer is where the female lay their eggs on the underside of the nettle leaves. All the eggs then hatch out, and the caterpillars come up onto the top of the nettles, spin themselves a little silk cocoon, and eat nettle tops. Nettles for breakfast, nettles for lunch, nettles for dinner, and if you really fancy a midnight snack, nettles in the middle of the night. And so this is their sole food plant, so it's really important. The caterpillars are really spectacular. Here in front of me, I've got hundreds and hundreds of peacock butterfly caterpillars and tortoiseshell caterpillars, small tortoiseshells. So once they've eaten their way through the nettle patches here, they form chrysalises. When they hatch out during autumn, they'll feed on the Michaelmas daisies in your own garden if you have them. Then they'll hibernate as adults through our coldest winter months. And here they are now, getting all ready to fatten up on stinger nettles. Summer throws up some beautiful flowers sometimes. This is one that's often ignored. It's called fireweed. Its proper name is rosebay willow herb, and it's a pioneering species because it produces dandelion-like seeds in a few weeks' time when it's finished flowering, and they float off in any direction that you can imagine. So it's called fireweed because this area of woodland was burnt down completely 2 years ago, and it's a early establisher of burnt ground. So during the Blitz, during the Second World War, large parts of London were burnt down, and this plant colonised the bomb sites. So London turned from brick rubble into this wonderful purple colour at this time of the year in late summer. It's a fantastic flower. The Victorians used to grow it as we grow some of the foxgloves and taller plants at the backs of our borders, but it is a bit invasive. It will take over areas, and this area of woodland will be completely purple in about a week's time. But they're just coming out into flower now, and when you take that second look, they're just stunningly beautiful. easy to miss. One of my favourite plants out in the Norfolk countryside as we approach midsummer. This is teasel, Dipsarchus phelonium. The Latin and Greek word dipsarchus means thirsty, and where the leaves join the stalks on teasels, they're nearly always full of water, even in dry weather. But this time of the year, it comes into flower in a really strange way. Two bands of flowers form. One moves up to the top of the teasel head, which looks rather like a thistle, and one moves down to the bottom. And when it's in flower for about 3 weeks, bumblebees, butterflies, painted ladies, peacocks, tortoiseshells absolutely love all the nectar and pollen it produces. It really comes into its own in October, November and December for one of our most colourful birds in the Norfolk countryside, the goldfinch. Goldfinches have really long needle-like bills or beaks that can get right down into the teasel head and get the seeds out. Male goldfinches have longer beaks than the females, and they can get down and reach the seeds even though they're almost unobtainable. So, one of my favourite plants and a brilliant plant for birds, butterflies and bees. A wildflower meadow in summer. No better place to sit on a hot summer's day. I'm surrounded by meadow brown butterflies, small tortoiseshells, peacock butterflies, common blues, one of my favourite butterflies of all, and a day-flying moth, which might surprise everybody, the most laziest moth in the world. It's called a six-spot Burnett moth, and it's a colonial moth. They live in little groups on hillsides like this in the sunshine, and they're iridescent green and black with vermilion red spots on the wings, 6 spots on each wing. Absolutely fantastic. One of Britain's most poisonous moths, so they advertise the fact to say, "Don't eat me," on bright red. You'll regret it if you do, because they're full of hydrogen cyanide, which is amazingly poisonous. So often birds that might eat them just learn to leave them well alone, but they are spectacularly beautiful. What a lovely place to be, summer. I'll see you again in just a few weeks' time when summer slips away into autumn. It's just as colourful, just as exciting, but different.